Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've uploaded here on YouTube. I'm doing a random little video today. It's baseball related, so if you're not a baseball fan, you might not want to watch this video. I'm going to go through here and predict how each team is going to do this season. As you can see here on the Tiermaker, we have 120 plus, which is 120 plus wins, which would be insane. That's never been done in MLB history. Um, then we go all the way down 110 to 119, which, is possible, but I don't know if we'll see that this season. And then obviously it goes all the way down to 0 to 59. If a team did not win one game, that would be something. um, but we're going to jump right into it here. Opening day for MLB is tomorrow. I wanted to do this before that went up. Possibly come back and watch this video when the season ends and see how well I did. I tried finding like a bracket that I could do a playoff prediction of, but I couldn't find anything. So I'll lightly touch base on that after I do all this. So we're going to start with the Chicago Cubs here. Cubs are kind of a tough one. I feel like they have a decent team. They signed Cody Bellinger. They have Dansby Swanson. Seiya Suzuki. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Seiya. Hosmer, Trey Mancini, Ian Happ. They have Stroman in the rotation. Kyle Hendricks as well. I feel like if anything, it's going to be the pitching that kind of holds them back a little bit. But I could see the Cubs, I'm thinking between 70, 80 to 81, 89. Like, do I picture the Cubs as a 500 team this year? Potentially. I may go back and change some things. I'm not sure yet. But right now I'm going to put the Cubs at the 81 to 89 win rate range. But we'll see if I come back to that. It's between these two. I don't see them up at 90 wins. I could be wrong. You never know. I don't think they'll be this bad. It's 69. But let's move on to the Chicago White Sox now. And the White Sox, I feel like, have been a team that has supposed to be good over the years. They have a decent looking roster, but I feel like they've really underperformed throughout these years where I felt like they were supposed to be like a deep in the playoff hunt team. Obviously, they have like Tim Anderson, Andrew Benintendi is there now, Liam Hendricks, who is one of their top relievers, closers, is out for a while with a type of cancer, I believe it was. So they're out. They're without him. I don't know how that will affect them. Dylan Cease, Yon Makata. Like, they have a decent looking team. I'm gonna put them right with the Chicago Cubs as well. 81 to 89. Like, I can see the White Sox being like 85 wins or so if I had to put an exact number on it. I feel like that's a good prediction on the White Sox for this year. Let's move on to the defending World Series champs, the Houston Astros. Obviously, the Astros have been one of the best teams in baseball for the last, several years, winning the World Series in 2017, right? 2017 and obviously 2022. Um, you know, if you ignore the whole scandal that they had a few years ago, they are a very talented team. Jose Altuve is out for at least the first month, I think 2 months though. So Altuve being one of the biggest players on the team, that's going to be a huge loss for them. But they still have a very talented team. They have Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker. They have Jose Abreu there too. I forgot about that. Bregman, obviously. their rotation. They've lost Justin Verlander. They still got Valdez, who's huge. McCullers, Javier. They have a very good team, and I can definitely see them up towards 100 wins. I think 100. I could see 102 for Houston this year. I may be really overjudging them, but I don't know. We'll see, obviously, come September. But I really feel like if they perform how they're supposed to, without Tuve out, can be a little tough, but I think they'll be fine for the most part. But we'll see. I feel like 100 to 109 is definitely good. I highly doubt I'm going to have anyone in the 110 and up range. I doubt it. But we'll see when we come up to the rest of the teams here. Sorry, I had to take a little sip of water. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Kind of wish they would just go back to being the Anaheim Angels, but what do I know? The Angels are tough. Like every year I want to see the Angels do well, especially having Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, two of the best players on this planet, basically. And they just continue to miss the playoffs. I feel like they are taking minor steps in the right direction, but I feel like that's going to be too little too late, especially with Shohei Ohtani and all the rumors of free agency coming up for him. They have a decent roster. They have, like I said, Ohtani and Trout. Rendon, hopefully Rendon can be healthy. If he can go back to how he was back with the Nationals, that'd be huge for the Angels. David Fletcher, Hunter Renfroe. Renfroe I feel is a very underrated player. Gio Urshela, he could really break out. He could be a star maybe still. It's really their pitching that is like really holding them back. I mean, kind of looking through their roster, I see Patrick Sandoval, Tyler Anderson, who had a decent year last year. But really, there's nothing too exciting about their pitching staff, and that's been their issue now for many years, basically the whole Mike Trout era. And, I really want to put the Angels up like in the 90s. Like I would love to see the Angels in the playoffs, and I just don't know if Trout and Ohtani can carry them to it. Maybe if they can get hot at some point in the season as a team, go on a good streak, that would be huge. But I still view the Angels as in the 70 to 80 range. I think they'll be higher 70s. I'm going to say like 79 wins. So, I don't know. It's really disappointing. Maybe if, like I said, they can get hot at some point, preferably like May, June, have a decent record going into July, the All-Star break, the trade deadline. Obviously if they are close enough to at least looking at a wild card spot, then they can make some moves at the trade deadline. Potentially that could bolster their roster a bit. If not, that's going to be disappointing. Another year without the Angels in the postseason. Mike Trout not in the postseason. Ohtani not in the postseason. I really think if the Angels do not improve this year, that's going to play a huge part in Ohtani's decision regarding free agency and possibly staying with the Angels. Let's see. We have the Yankees next. The Yankees are always an interesting topic of how they will do. The big news coming out of spring training, Anthony Volpe making the Major League roster. That's huge. I honestly didn't think he would make the Major League roster right out of spring. but that is awesome for him. Last year, I got to work with him a little bit when he was still in the Double A. I think this kid's going to be huge. I just don't know if it's too early for him. I mean, how old is he even now? He's 21 years old now. Um, I hope he does well. So with Volpe, obviously Aaron Judge and his monster season in 2022. Obviously, they have a lot of injuries already, especially with their pitchers. Carlos Rodon, who is a big signing this offseason, he's already out. Severino, I believe, is out. I know Cortez is still healthy right now. Frankie Montez, whatever. I know he's out. That's a big blow. They have 3 starters out of the rotation already, and the season hasn't even started. So that is going to be interesting to see how the Yankees handle that to start the season. Obviously, they still have a very good roster, good lineup with Stanton in that lineup. Stanton is still one of my favorites. I'm not even a Yankees fan, grew up a Red Sox fan, but I definitely respect several Yankees players. And Stanton, I really liked when he was still with the Miami Marlins, and I know he's not looked at the same anymore, especially as he's aging. He still has bouts on the injured list. So, I'm always rooting for Stanton, though. The guy's a beast. Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Harrison Bader, Garrett Cole at the top of the rotation, obviously. I definitely feel like the injuries to the rotation to start the season are going to hurt them a little bit. Before, I was thinking they were going to be right up with the Astros, 100 to 109 wins, but I feel like the injuries at the beginning of the season are going to kind of hurt them, take away a few wins that they probably should have gotten in April. So I'm going to put them 90 to 99. I can picture them anywhere from 97 to 99 wins. Definitely feel like the injuries are going to play a big role. And obviously the Yankees are a team that have struggled with injuries in recent years. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm trying to get on top of that, trying to figure out how to keep guys healthy. And because you definitely don't want to get down to June and July and have half your team on the injured list. Next up, the Minnesota Twins. Interesting team to try to predict here. The whole Carlos Correa charade going on in the offseason. He signed with the Giants. He signed with who else? I know he signed with someone else or agreed to sign. Then ended up back with the Twins. Correa is definitely a valuable player. Pablo Lopez in the rotation, I think, is going to be huge. Byron Buxton, if he can be healthy, he's going to be a huge part of the Twins' success this year. But that is a big question mark. Buxton, someone who has struggled to stay off of the injured list in his entire career. Joey Gallo, what can we expect from him? You can expect home runs, but you're going to get like a 210, 220 batting average probably from him. But he's a big bat there. Just kind of looking through the roster, there's some potentials. Like they signed Christian Vasquez, a catcher, used to be with the Red Sox, spent half of last year with Houston. Michael Taylor, Kyle Farmer, Jose Miranda, Joe Ryan, Max Kepler. They have a okay looking team, but I honestly I'm having a hard time here. I'm thinking between the 70-80 and 81-89 range. It's so tough, Kenta Maeda is on the team. I'm gonna put the Twins at the 70 to 80 range. I honestly see them at 80, to finish this season. I think they're going to be just under 500 for the season. I don't know. Like, it's very tough to decide who to put there or where to put them. I mean, it should be interesting. Maybe they can prove me wrong, get up into the mid and high 80s. That'd be great. Now we have the Arizona Diamondbacks. Every year for the last probably 10 years now, I have always picked like a National League team. Like I said, growing up, I was a Red Sox fan, still am. But, working now for the Blue Jays, I'm kind of more biased towards the Blue Jays. So I don't remember what year it was. I want to say it was like 2014. I picked the Diamondbacks as my National League team that I wanted to win it. They started the season well, I think, that year, but then they just fell off. And the Diamondbacks are just a team that is kind of there. Like, you don't expect much out of them. Kind of have hope for them. I definitely think they're going in the right direction, though. Just a couple weeks ago, they extended Corbin Carroll, their outfielder, who's played very little games with them. I think he only played like 20-something games with them last year. I could be wrong on that. But he really doesn't have much experience in the bigs yet, but they extended him to a huge contract, which is great for him. It's a great sign for fans of the Diamondbacks. It looks like they're trying to build up their team. The big one, Gabriel Moreno. He used to be with the Blue Jays. I've worked with him. I'm a clubhouse manager in baseball in the Blue Jays org. Moreno is, his potential is very high. If he can live up to that potential, he is going to be absolutely huge for Arizona. Looking at who they have a good-looking roster. Moreno, Kyle Lewis, who used to be on Seattle, Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll, Evan Longoria's there. I forgot about that. Merrill Kelly in the rotation. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He's going to provide a good bit for that lineup. Zach Gallen, of course, in the rotation. Ketel Marte in the outfield. And Madison Bumgarner. If Bumgarner can somehow go back to his prime days when he was with the Giants, I mean, all of baseball is screwed at that point. But at this point in Bumgarner's career, seeing how he's gone, he's still only 33. Thought he was actually older than that. Seeing how he's gone, though, it's unlikely he's going to be as big as he used to be, but there's still the hope there. They really have a decent-looking team, and this might be one I go back and change. But right now, I'm going to put them in the 81 to 89 range. I think they're going to surprise people this year. I definitely see them more so towards the 81, like 81, 82, 83 wins potentially. I don't see them up towards 89, but we'll see. Like I said, I may come back to this and change a few things when we get finished. Going up next is the Atlanta Braves. The Braves were in the World Series last year against the Houston Astros. It was a great series. Obviously, Houston won. I don't know if you guys could hear that. There's a construction vehicle going by that was really loud. The Braves are a very good-looking team. Like, I might put them on top of the Dodgers this year. Ronald Acuna Jr., I know he missed some of last season. Having him for a full season is going to be huge. Spencer Strider, he was amazing last year. I'm excited to see what he has in store for everyone this year. Sean Murphy's their new catcher. Matt Olson at first. Austin Riley at third. Michael Harris in the outfield. Marcell Ozuna. Ozzie Albies. They have Max Fried. Eddie Rosario, like their not rotation, their roster is very good looking. Kind of wish Freddie Freeman was still there. He like I miss Freeman in Atlanta. It just I hate seeing him in a Dodgers uniform. It just does not seem right. Um, but the Braves, being in the same division as the Mets, who are expected to be like a super team, could make it tough. And I was thinking about putting them in the 100 range, but I definitely see high 90s for the Braves this year. About the same as the Yankees, from like 97 to 99, I can see for sure. Um, it should be interesting. The Braves are probably might be my favorite to win the National League this year again. But let's move on to the Baltimore Orioles. Last year, the Orioles really surprised people with how good they were. Um, I feel like they didn't capitalize much in free agency. Like, if I was the Orioles, I would have gone out and gotten someone notably big. Um, but they have a good young team coming up. They have Adley Rutschman, their star catcher, Gunnar Henderson at short, Cedric Mullins in the outfield, John Means in the rotation, Ryan Mountcastle, Santander. They have the potential, but I honestly feel like last year was kind of a fluke in a way. Like I feel like they definitely played better than people expected them to. But I feel like this year, like they're gonna have higher expectations, and they're only gonna kind of let down in a way. And I'm gonna predict the 70 to 80 range. I'm seeing 74 wins potentially for them. Uh, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. Like I'd love to see the Orioles succeed, get into the playoffs. Like I'm a all around baseball fan. I love seeing different teams get into the playoffs, and only hope the best for basically every team and player. Um, Moving on to the Cincinnati Reds. Kind of hard to be a Reds fan right now because they really don't have much going on. I can't remember when the last winning season was. If I had to guess, it'd be like 2014. So it's been a while, I believe. Let me actually pull up real quick the standings from last year because I can't remember their record last year. Yeah, the Reds went 62 and 100 last year. 31 games back in the Central. Tied for the worst record in the Central with the Pirates. Joey Votto, who's been their franchise player for years now, he is starting the season on the injured list for the first time in his 14-year career. Obviously, Votto is someone who has declined over the years, but overall, he reminds me of a Miguel Cabrera now. Like, both are great players in their prime. Obviously, Miguel Cabrera is much better than Votto in my opinion. But Cabrera isn't much of a power hitter anymore, but still hits for a good contact, hits for a decent average, and I feel like that's where Votto's at in his career now too. He's 39 years old now. So it's understandable. I believe it's the last year of his contract as well. I think there is an option on that contract, though, which I highly doubt Cincinnati will exercise after the season. I could be wrong, but with how he's declined, I highly doubt they're going to want to pay him. I believe it's like 20 plus million for next year. Um, they do have some bright spots on their roster. Jonathan India, I feel like, is really going to have a big year. Hunter Green in the rotation, I'm pretty sure he's the opening day starter as well tomorrow. Tyler Stevenson, Nick Senzel. Their roster is pretty underwhelming. They have Will Myers, Will Benson, Spencer Steer. I don't know much about the Reds' farm system. I don't know if they have some bright young players coming up or not. But the Reds are in for another long year, in my opinion. I kind of really want to put them in the bottom one here. But I feel like low 60s. Last year they won 62 games. I feel like that's about where they're going to be. I see 61 this year. Part of me still feels like, they could be in this range here. But we'll see. I may change that. We'll see. Up next, we've got the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies are a team that I want to see do well so bad for years now. I've always just something about Colorado, Colorado itself, I've always just kind of wanted to live there. The Rockies, I've always just kind of liked. They were another team that a few years ago I expected to be on the rise, but they've really just done nothing. And I feel like the management is kind of a joke. I know their Double-A team very well, the Hartford Yard Goats. Seeing how they're run and all the stories I've heard about the Rockies organization, it sounds like a giant mess. But I feel like they got some bright spots, just like the Reds do, a few at least. Obviously, they have Chris Bryant locked down to a long-term contract. If he can be healthy, have a big year, that'll be huge for Colorado. Obviously, the Rocky Stadium, Coors Field, is a very hitter-friendly park. Chris Bryant, I feel like, could put up the best season of his career if healthy and obviously playing well. Charlie Blackmon, I feel like he's kind of fallen off. He used to be so huge. Now it's you really don't hear much about him. I think he's also dealt with some injuries too. But he is still a huge part of that lineup. They have Jurickson Profar. He's kind of a bust. The potential he had coming up with, I believe, the Texas Rangers it was. He had very high potential, and he just has not lived up to that, in my opinion. Mike Moustakas at third, CJ Cron at first. Ryan McMahon. They got Daniel Bard in the bullpen. Marquez. Marquez is someone that I expected to be huge, but he's kind of just been average to below average, in my opinion. Senzatella as well. They have a few bright spots, but I still don't picture them any higher than 69. And 69 is probably being pretty generous. Just like the Reds, I picture low 60s. Probably 63 games I'll give them, which last year they won 68. So I put them 63, 64, roughly. They just really don't have much pitching to work with. Their lineup, like I said, has a few bright spots, but it's really not enough, in my opinion, especially when you're in the same division as the Dodgers and Dodgers, Giants, Padres. It's going to be a tough season for Colorado. Speaking of tough seasons, the Detroit Tigers. Another team that has bright spots. They've had some young talent that's come up throughout the years, but really hasn't paid off, in my opinion. Matt Manning. I'm drawing a blank on the other guy's name. I know him too. I can't think of his name right now. Miguel Cabrera. This is Miguel Cabrera's final season. So it's going to be... I'm hoping he has the season like Albert Pujols had last year in his final season. That'd be amazing to see. I don't know if he's coming up on any type of milestones. I don't think so. Big Miggy fan. I hope he has a great season, final season. Obviously, I'd love to see the Tigers get into the playoffs. I just don't see it happening. They have Javier Baez, Spencer Torkelson, um, Austin Meadows, Eduardo Rodriguez. I picture them like, what did they win last year? They won 66 games. They finished fourth place in the Central. I really picture them right down here with the Rockies and Reds, but I picture them about where they were at last year. I see like 68 wins potentially for the Tigers, which would be a 2-game improvement from last year. It'll be disappointing, obviously people will want to see Miguel Cabrera win a World Series with the Tigers. Obviously he's won one with the Marlins years ago. But all his years in Detroit, it would be amazing to see him get a World Series ring there. But unfortunately, I just do not see that happening. Now, we've got the Cleveland Guardians, which I'm trying to pull up their roster. The Guardians, formerly the Cleveland Indians, are another team that I really just want to see do well. Like I said, being a Red Sox fan growing up, Terry Francona, I love Terry Francona, the manager. I would love to see him win a World Series in Cleveland. Back when the Indians and Cubs had played in the World Series a few years back, it was so tough for me because both teams hadn't won it in so long, and I liked a lot of people on both teams, but I was really rooting for Cleveland that year. But the Cubs won, which is great. I was ecstatic for the Cubs. That was a tough World Series for me. I just wanted both teams to win. But their roster this year is looking good. Josh Bell, I feel like, could really have a big year. I think he might surprise people this year. I hope I'm right on that. Jose Ramirez, of course, is a huge part of the Guardians. Andres Jimenez just signed an extension yesterday for $106 million, I believe it was, 106.5 or something like that. Oscar Gonzalez, super excited to see what this kid has in store for us this year. Stephen Kwan, Tristan McKenzie in the rotation. I know he's on the IL for at least the first few weeks of the season. Shane Bieber. Bieber is one of the top pitchers in baseball, in my opinion. And if he can stay healthy, he's going to have a huge year. I see a potential Cy Young award this year for Bieber. Obviously he won it back in 2020 in the shortened season. I feel like he can have a very big year this year. Josh Naylor, Ahmed Rosario, Mike Zunino. They have a decent looking team. Last year they won 92 games. They finished first place in the Central. They had an 11-game lead over the second-place White Sox. And I'm going to put them up with the Yankees and Braves. Obviously, I said the Yankees and Braves are going to be closer to 99. The Guardians, I see a lot like last year, potentially 90, 91 wins. I was going to put them in the 81 to 89 range, but I feel like in that division, the Guardians will be able to get up to 90 wins. I would love to see them make a move at the trade deadline for a somewhat big starter. I feel like they could definitely use someone big in that rotation to go along with Bieber. But we'll see when we come to that track in July. Up next, we have the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are a team that I really don't see competing this year. They signed Aroldis Chapman, which you don't know how he's going to be at all. They have Bobby Witt Jr., Zach Greinke. I'm always going to root for Greinke, but, Greinke's also, 39 years old now. He's going to turn 40 in October. Um, hopefully Greinke has a good year. He had a pretty decent year last year, I feel. Salvador Perez, MJ Melendez, Brady Singer. They definitely got some bright spots with their team this year. But I really don't see them competing. Last year they were last place in the AL Central, 65 and 97. That's honestly about the same range I see them this year. I see them potentially higher 60s, maybe 67, 68 wins potentially. I don't see them up at 70. Not yet, at least. Obviously, just like every other prediction here, we will see. Now, the Los Angeles Dodgers, one of the biggest teams in baseball. Dodgers, obviously, are probably going to be pretty good. They have Mookie Betts, Julio Urias, JD Martinez now, Gavin Lux. They picked up Miguel Rojas for short. Obviously, Rojas isn't nearly as good as Trey Turner. Trey Turner has, in my opinion, beats Rojas in every category. But, Rojas is still a valuable option there for shortstop. Clayton Kershaw, obviously, Kershaw is another one that struggled with the injured list, and, he's getting older. And I know he's talked about retirement potentially after this year. So who knows how Kershaw will be this year? There's a big question mark every time he steps out on that mound if he's going to be fine. Freddie Freeman, Noah Syndergaard. Syndergaard, if he can return to form, could have a huge season. Max Muncy, David Peralta, Will Smith. I feel like the Dodgers are going to take a step back this year. Last year, they won 111 games. 111, that's going to be tough to replicate, I'm going to put the Dodgers, honestly, in the 90 to 99 range. Kind of like the Yankees and Braves here. Higher 90s, probably 98, 99. But I think they're going to take a big step back. Obviously, if they were at 99 wins, that's a 12-game difference from last year. But really, 111 wins, that is going to be incredibly difficult to do again. And while I still think the Dodgers are one of the best teams in baseball, I think they're going to take a step back, especially like I noted earlier with how tough that division is going to be. I think the Giants are going to be decent. Padres are going to be a monster of a team. The Rockies really aren't much, but they'll still sneak out some wins here and there. It should be interesting to see how the Dodgers do, but I definitely see high 90s for them. I don't see them touching 100 again, not this year at least. But yeah, let me grab a little drink of water real quick. Next up, we got the Miami Marlins. So the Marlins are also another team that I always hope will do well. They just, I don't know. They have Jazz Chisholm Jr., who's a cover star for MLB The Show this year. He, it's kind of hard to tell what kind of season he's going to have. I feel like he is going to have like an average season. Sandy Alcantara, of course, is one of the biggest pitchers in baseball today, winning the National League Cy Young last year. Still just 27 years old. And the rest of the roster, they have Jorge Soler, Gene Segura, John Birdie, Brian De La Cruz, Johnny Cueto. I forgot he signed with Miami. They got Matt Barnes in the pen. They got some notable people, but I just can't see them doing great. Last year they won 69 games, and I honestly am going to put them back in that range. I can see 67 wins this year from the Marlins. And, I hope the Marlins soon can become a competitive team, especially with Alcantara, but especially with how the Marlins have been in the recent years, he'll probably be traded away at some point, and the Marlins will continue to be a rebuilding team. The Milwaukee Brewers. This is a big one here, and it's a tough one for me. The Brewers last year finished second place in the Central. They're 86-76, 7 games back of the Cardinals. They have Christian Yelich, Corbin Burns, Luis Urias, William Contreras, Willie Adames, Jesse Winker, Rowdy Tellez. They definitely have notable people. Garrett Mitchell, Devin Williams, Wade Miley. I feel like the Brewers are still going to be a competitive team, but I don't think they're going to be as good as people expect them to be. I'm going to put them in the 81 to 89 range. Last year they won 86 games. I see them winning 83 to 84 games this year and probably missing the playoffs. Maybe sneaking into the wild card, if anything, but I don't know about that. I feel like it's just going to kind of be a disappointment for Brewers fans this year. Up next is a team who's considered to be a super team this year. We got the New York Mets, who last year won 101 games, and they had one of the busiest off seasons in like baseball history. Edwin Diaz, their star closer, is out for the year from his injury in the World Baseball Classic. They got, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, Senga. They've got him now. They have Justin Verlander, who's huge on the Astros last year, but, there's big questions around Verlander. Even though he's been a very consistent pitcher throughout his career, he is 40 years old now. So you never know what to expect from a 40-year-old baseball player, even if they've been good basically their whole career. So it'll be interesting to see how Verlander does, especially going to the National League for the first time in his career. He's only been with the Tigers and Astros. Francisco Lindor, a lot of people hate that contract, which looking at it is kind of a bad contract. Obviously not for him, but Lindor, I feel like, is going to have a very big year in that lineup and is really going to shut the mouths of some haters. Pete Alonso, obviously, is going to be a huge part of that lineup. The guy's a beast. Probably see him in the home run derby again. Guy seems very motivated for that. Max Scherzer, another big part of the Mets right there. Spent his first season with them last year. But again, he's 38 years old. He's started dealing with some injuries, and, he is an 8-time All-Star, 3-time Cy Young, but injuries and age starts to take an effect on someone. Scherzer's always someone I'm going to root for, too. Brandon Nimmo, Vogelbach, Tommy Pham, Jose Quintana, which I think he's missing the start of the season, too. Starlin Marte, David Robertson, David Peterson. They have a very good roster, and I can see 100 wins from the Mets. I honestly think they're gonna be right on 100. Maybe 101 again. But I feel like the Braves are going to be like 98, 99, and the Mets are going to be right at 100, just like 1 or 2 games ahead of the Braves. And that should make for a very interesting season. Like, I'm so excited to see how the Mets and Braves battle it out all year. Now we got the Oakland Athletics. Oakland's a fucking mess. Has been for a long time. Actually, just got a notification that they traded Christian Posh. See, I know a lot of these names, but sometimes I forget how to say them. They just traded him. The Athletics, though, can't really expect much out of them. What was their record last year? They won 60 games and lost 102. I really don't think they've done anything to improve necessarily. Kyle Muller is very young. Well, not very young. He's 25, but was just drafted a few years ago. Made his debut with the Braves in 21. Hasn't had the greatest of starts for a career, but I feel like he's someone that could potentially get into a groove. Tony Kemp, just looking at the roster, is not great. Trevor May, Jesus Aguilar. I don't know. They signed the Japanese pitcher Shintaro Fujinami, which I don't know if I'm saying that right at all. I'm probably not. This will be his first year in the major leagues. 28 years old. Decent pitcher in Japan, 3.41 ERA, 1,000 strikeouts. I really can't see much from the Athletics this year. I'm going to put the Athletics right here. I picture 58 to 59 wins. Last year they won only 60. I really don't think they improved at all this offseason, unless some young players can come up and make their impact. I see a 58 to 59 win season for the Athletics. Or a 0 win season, that works too. But no, 58 to 59, it should be interesting if they can start building a roster. Obviously, there's a lot of concern and word going around that the Athletics could be moving. People have talked about Vegas. People have talked about Montreal. I know it seems like Vegas is seen as like the favorites if that does happen, which I'm for. I think the Athletics need to get out of there. California has 5 baseball teams. Oakland Coliseum is a dump. Get them out of there, move them to Vegas, and it'll be huge. So I'm all for the Athletics moving to Vegas if that happens. Next up, we got the Philadelphia Phillies, which just reminds me, I probably said earlier that the Braves were in the World Series last year. I meant the Phillies. God damn it. Phillies, I feel like, made decent moves. They signed Trey Turner, who's going to be huge. Good speed threat, guy hits for good contact, has decent power. He's going to be huge for the Phillies. And having Bryce Harper there, I know Harper's going to miss a little bit of time. I know they had like a timetable for him just released like a week or two ago. I can't remember when they said he might be back. I think it might have been like the All-Star break. Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Brandon Marsh, Alec Boehm, Derek Hall, Nick Castellanos, Craig Kimbrell. I feel like the Phillies are going to be a very good team this year. And I'm going to put them in the 90 to 99 range. Last year, they won 87 games. I picture them about 90, maybe 91, but definitely like low 90s for the Phillies this year. Sorry. It should be interesting. Like, I'm gonna have a tough time trying to choose who's gonna be in the World Series here. Pittsburgh Pirates. They're kind of in the same range as the Athletics. Um, I really don't expect much out of the Pirates this year. I don't think anyone really does. Last year they won 62 games, lost 100. And, there's a lot of talks about Brian Reynolds. I heard he wants to be traded. Extension talks aren't going well. And, the Pirates still want to work out an extension, but I don't foresee that coming. Biggest move for them was signing Andrew McCutchen. I'm happy to see McCutchen back in Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's confirmed it's his final year, but it seems like it might be. Rich Hill, Rich Hill's now fucking 43 years old, so what can you really expect out of him? Hopefully he's still decent. I'm a big Rich Hill fan. O'Neal Cruz, big young player for the Pirates. Key Brian Hayes, another big young player. Mitch Keller. David Bednar, Carlos Santana, which, he's 36 now, like G-Man Choi, Austin Hedges. I feel like the Pirates are going to be better than Oakland. I'm going to put them right here. I'm going to say probably about the same as last season, 60 wins or so. Maybe 61, 62, but definitely in the low 60s for the Pirates, I believe. Now up, the Boston Red Sox. The team, like my team, grew up a Red Sox fan. Last few years working for the Blue Jays, obviously, kind of stopped paying attention as much to the Red Sox. Obviously, I still pay attention, but not nearly as much as I did when I was a kid / teenager. The Red Sox seem kind of like a mess, but at the same time, they seem like a team that could surprise people. They signed the Japanese outfielder Masataka Yoshida. He had a huge World Baseball Classic, set the record for like RBIs in a single series with 13. Hopefully he can display that same ability at Fenway. Justin Turner coming from the Dodgers to Boston, 38 years old. Kind of hard to tell or expect what we're going to get from him. Rafael Devers, one of my favorite all-time players. Great dude. He's going to probably have his typical season. He's going to be like the top player for the Red Sox. Casas, hard to tell what we're gonna get from him. Yu Chang, don't expect too much. Adam Duvall, their opening day starter this year is Corey Kluber, which I really hope to see Kluber return to his form back when he was winning Cy Young awards with Cleveland. Adalberto Mondesi, Chris Sale. Obviously, Chris Sale's another big question mark. This guy's on the injured list more than he's playing. Kenley Jansen, I'm really interested to see how he'll do with Boston. James Paxton. Actually, is Paxton still with the Red Sox? Yes, he is. Verdugo, big part of the Mookie trade. Kike Hernandez. I feel like they're going to be a team that can surprise people. Brian Bello, hopefully he can have a good year. Tanner Houck. I really can't see the Red Sox being up here. I see them in the 70 range. Probably, I'm picturing 73, 74 wins from the Red Sox this year. I feel like their pitching is really going to hold them back. Their lineup is pretty underwhelming, but it's not the worst either. So I think 74 wins is pretty fair for the most part. But I still feel like they're a team that could surprise us potentially. I definitely don't picture them getting up to 90. Could be wrong. Anything is possible in the game of baseball. Athletics could win 120 plus this year. And, I would not place any bets on that. Coming up next, the San Diego Padres, another team that is considered to be a super team at this point. They had another busy offseason, kind of like the Mets. Yu Darvish, Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Bogarts, Musgrove, Snell, Carpenter, Cronenworth, Nelson Cruz, Josh Hader, Michael Walker, Drew Pomeranz. They have a very good looking roster. And again, I go back to how tough this division is going to be with the Dodgers, Giants. Giants, I don't picture being a great team, but I picture them just being a thorn in someone's side all season. Diamondbacks, I have up there 81 to 89. Rockies way down here. But Padres, I definitely see in the 90 to 99 range. I see how many games did they win last year? The Padres won 89 games last year. I see them winning 92 to 93 this season, which would still put them behind my Dodgers prediction, which I put the Dodgers up at 98, 99. It's going to be a tough division for sure. So I'm very excited to see how these super teams actually work out. Like the Mets are considered a super team. Padres, Yankees can be considered that too. Dodgers, Braves, even Astros, obviously. At this point, of the remaining teams, I don't think I'm putting anyone up at 110. Anyone that I would have considered potentially putting up there would already be up here. But now we got the San Francisco Giants. Looking at that roster, they have a few good names. Brandon Crawford, Michael Conforto, Jock Peterson, Mitch Haniger, Logan Webb, Mike Yastrzemski, J.D. Davis, Joey Bart, Sean Manaea, Camilo Duvall, Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores. Like I said before already a few times this video, the Giants I see just being kind of like a thorn in team sides, kind of like the Dodgers and Padres. Obviously, when you put the Giants up against Dodgers, looking at the rosters, you're going to be like, okay, Dodgers are probably going to win. But the Giants are going to sneak out some wins against both teams here. And I just picture them being a thorn in everyone's side. Last year, the Giants won 81 games. They went 81 and 81. I kind of picture them about the same this year, about 81 wins. The Iant, potentially 81 to 83, somewhere in that range. I picture the Giants this year, like I said, just being a thorn in team sides. That's what I picture for the Giants this year. I think most of the season they'll kind of be a threat for the second wild card spot, but they won't end up making it. Now we've got the Seattle Mariners, another team that I really want to see succeed. I had high hopes from them last year. Super pumped to see them doing so well now. Mariners are always a team I wanted to see do well back when Ken Griffey was playing for them, Ichiro, Felix. I've always been a pretty good Mariners fan. So I'm very excited to see them doing well. Julio Rodriguez is a huge part of this franchise. They got to build around him. Jared Kelenic, guy with such high potential, really needs to break out and have a big season. Luis Castillo, he's an opening day starter. Hoping for a big year from him. Cal Raleigh, I think it's Raleigh. George Kirby, Colton Wong, Teoscar Hernandez, J.P. Crawford, Ty France, Andres Munoz, Eugenio Suarez, Robbie Ray. They have playoff written on them. Playoff team. But the question is, how well will they do? Last year, they won 90 games. They finished second place behind the Houston Astros. Do I see 90 games from them again? Honestly, no. I see them up at 89, which looks like would probably make them a wild card team again. Obviously, if the Astros I have up at 100 to 109, um, they're gonna be good. But I think they're gonna fall just short of 90. But I think they're still gonna be a wild card team. And, I'm all for it. I really hope to see the Mariners succeed. Next, we have the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals are another team that's kind of hard to tell. Last year, they won the division with 93 wins. I really don't foresee that same success this year. They still got some notable names, Adam Wainwright, but he's 41 years old, Jack Flaherty, Tyler O'Neill, Tommy Edman, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Wilson Contreras, Yadier Molina's retired now. I picture the Cardinals in the 81 to 89 range. Probably 85 to 86 wins for the Cardinals this year, I'm predicting. I think they're still going to be a decent team. Will they sneak into the wild card? Potentially. Kind of hard to tell right now with the Cardinals. But next, we have the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Just kidding. Tampa Bay Rays. Kind of wish they were still the Devil Rays. I did see that they're going to be wearing the Devil Ray uniforms like every Friday home game or something. The Rays are a team that's been pretty good for recent years. Randy Arozarena, Tyler Glasnow, Wander Franco, Shane McClanahan, Yandy Diaz, Josh Lowe. I feel like they're still going to be a decent team. But last year they won 86 games. I feel like they're going to continue to be on that path or maybe a little worse. I'm still going to put them in the 81 to 89 range, but more so like low 80s. I see 82, 83 wins potentially for Tampa Bay this year. And I just see the Rays continuing in a downward slope potentially. We'll see. Next up, we have the Texas Rangers. Rangers have the potential to be good. They signed Jacob deGrom, but deGrom is another huge question mark on if he can stay healthy. Obviously, when he is healthy, he is one of the best pitchers in the game. But he's a guy who's spent way too much time on the injured list in his career that you can't bet on him being healthy. Corey Seager, Nathan Eovaldi, another guy who is prone for the injured list but can be very good. Josh Jung, Josh Smith, Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien. Last year, the Rangers won 68 games. They had a 420 win percentage. And playing in the same division as the Houston Astros, that really sucks for them. Astros are just such a good team. The Mariners, Angels, the only team they were better than last year in their division was the Oakland Athletics. I really don't see them being too much better, but I am going to put the Rangers in the 70 to 80 range. Probably low 70s. I see 72, 73 wins for the Rangers this year, which is obviously an improvement from last year, and they just need to continue building on top of that. Feel like their pitching is very questionable, especially with deGrom and Eovaldi. You really don't know if they're going to stay healthy. The chances of deGrom being healthy for the entire season, making the regular 32, 33 starts or so is highly unlikely. That's probably the same with Eovaldi as well. So their pitching, I think, is going to kind of hurt them this year. Their lineup is kind of underwhelming, but I do see 72, 73 wins for Texas this year. I'll do the Blue Jays last since that's my team. So the Washington Nationals, the 2019 World Series champions, a year that they definitely did not expect them to win. The Nationals really are an underwhelming team. You know, their opening day starter is Patrick Corbin, who had like a awful year last year. He lost like 19 games last year with a 6+ ERA. So to have him as your opening day starter, not a great look. Steven Strasburg is, I don't know if he's ruled out for the year. I know he's hurt and won't be starting the season in time. They have C.J. Abrams, Joey Meneses, Dominic Smith, Mackenzie Gore, Josiah Gray, Victor Robles. They have a few notable people, Keibert Ruiz, who they also extended a couple weeks ago. I don't even know how many games they won last year. Nationals finished last place with 55 wins, 107 losses. So they were the worst team in baseball, not even just their own league. I really don't expect much better. I'm honestly going to put them with the Oakland Athletics. I see them, I think they'll win a few more games. I see 57 to 59 wins for the Nationals, somewhere in that range. I see a good 59. Feel like it's kind of like the Athletics are going to be right under 60. Nationals, I think, will probably be the worst team in baseball again, especially playing in the same division as, you know, the Mets and Braves. It's not going to be a pretty year for the Nationals, and that's too bad, seeing as they just won the World Series 4 years ago. But last but not least, the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are going 120 plus. Just kidding. Whoops. Can I not? Okay. I'm going to leave them here right now. They have a very talented roster, and I know I'm a little biased working for the Blue Jays, but, you know, they do have a really good roster. Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Vlad, I feel like, really needs to have a big, like, monster year to really prove himself. Like, he's always been good, but kind of, in a way, overrated. But he is a very talented player. Just needs to have a really monster year. Dalton Varsho, you know, don't know much about him. He has the potential. Brandon Belt, interesting to be in Toronto now. Kevin Kiermaier, Alejandro Kirk, George Springer. You know, I know Springer's a big question mark for being healthy. Alek Manoah, the opening day starter. I'm really predicting a big year from Manoah. Kikuchi, Ryu, another question mark. Bassett, I feel like I really wasn't a big fan of the Bassett signing, but I feel like he's going to be able to hold his own for the most part. Whit Merrifield, Matt Chapman, Jose Barrios, Kevin Biggio, Kevin Gausman, Santiago Espinal. I feel like the Blue Jays are going to be decent this year. I don't remember how many games they won last year. They won 92 games last year. They finished second place behind the Yankees. I can see them being back up in the 90s. I don't see them above the Yankees. I see them probably about the same range as last year, probably about 92, 93 wins for the Blue Jays this year. I see probably 93. I think that's pretty fair. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'll make any changes to this at all. I feel like it's pretty solid. Yeah, I like it. The Athletics could surprise me, get up into the 60s maybe. Nationals, I really don't see them getting up into the 60s. Reds, Rockies, Tigers, Royals, Marlins, Pirates, just don't expect much out of them. If there's any team I could see potentially sneaking up into the 70s, I'd say probably the Royals. As for here, Angels, Twins, Orioles, Red Sox, Rangers, like I said, the Red Sox, I think, have the potential to kind of be a surprise team, sneak their way up into the 80s. Orioles could be another team that kind of sneaks their way into the 80s. Twins as well. Angels could surprise us. Rangers, I really don't see moving up. For the 80s, Cubs, I don't see going into the 90s. White Sox, I don't. Diamondbacks, I definitely don't. If anything, I see them going down. Brewers, I think will be in the 80s. Giants could potentially go down. Mariners could potentially go up. Cardinals, I think, will stay in this range. Rays, probably this range. Yankees could win 100 games. I just feel like injuries are going to play a big part in them not reaching 100. I feel like they're going to be right at 99, though. I feel like they're just going to be one game off of 100. Braves could be another 100-win team. Kind of hard to tell. It really wouldn't surprise me. I could almost boost them up there. But with the Mets, I feel like the Braves are going to be just like the Yankees, 99 wins or so, 98, 99. Guardians, I feel like I could potentially move down to the 80s, but I'll keep them there. Dodgers, I feel like that's a good place for them. Phillies, potentially down, 89 wins. Padres, I feel like that's a good spot, but potentially could go down to 89. Blue Jays, about the same, could go down. Astros, Mets, I think, are pretty safe bets for the 100 wins. I really don't have a feeling about a team reaching 110 wins. If I had to choose a team, I would probably choose the Mets. The Astros, I just don't see them winning 110. Mets, though, I could consider it. So for the most part, I feel like this is pretty solid on my part. I could be completely wrong. This year we could have Athletics Nationals in the World Series. Anything can happen in the game of baseball. As far as the World Series, a real prediction, I really think we're going to see... I think the Astros are going to be knocked out in the championship series, the ALCS. And I don't know what it is, but it's been just kind of there for me for the last couple of years. But 2023, I pictured as the Yankees winning their first World Series since 2009. Obviously, just because if you're the top team in the regular season, that doesn't guarantee you're going to win the World Series. I just feel like the Yankees are going to have a very hot September, and they're going to go into the postseason on fire, and they're just going to kill it. So my prediction is for the Yankees to make the World Series and win it. As for their opponent, I am picturing the Atlanta Braves. I think the Braves are going to do about the same thing. They're going to get hot going right into the postseason. I picture the New York Yankees and the Atlanta Braves in the 2023 World Series, with the Yankees winning. If I had to do a certain amount of games, I see the Yankees winning 4-2. It's going to be a decent series. And something about 2023 and the Yankees is just something I've had in my head now for a couple of years. Being a Red Sox fan and working for the Blue Jays, that's kind of hard to say, but if I had to make a wild prediction, just right out there, I would say the Mariners and Padres. I think that would be an amazing World Series for sure. But I don't foresee that. That's not my official prediction. I'm going Yankees, Braves, 100%. But yeah, that is my tier maker. This probably went on way longer than I expected it to. But I get talking about baseball and shit happens. But if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitch if you do not already. Same name, TMoneyDogVIP. Same thing for Twitter if you want to follow me there. I'll hopefully get around to uploading videos here on YouTube regularly again soon, hopefully. Baseball season's coming up for me, so kind of busy certain weeks. But I will hopefully be streaming a good bit and hopefully get around to editing all the videos I need to edit and get them uploaded. But thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have any predictions yourself. Let me know what you think. And I will see you guys in the next video. See you guys.